Hello and welcome to the show. Now, the new racing truck added to Forza 6 is undoubtedly a really rather awesome beast of a vehicle. While it doesn't weigh quite as much as the Gurkha, it is larger, considerably taller, most noticeably though, considerably faster, with over 1,000 horsepower and over 3,500 torque, and a surprising amount of grip. It is actually a very capable vehicle when you come to taking it around a track. I found out when I went autocrossing with it. However, another new vehicle added to Forza 6 is the BMW Isetta. So we've gone from the largest to, well, the smallest and lightest. It's lighter than the Lotus 11 from standard. This is just 920 pounds. That is not very much at all for a car. Unfortunately, it does have a mere 13 horsepower, 14 torque. It is incredibly slow. It is painfully slow, especially if you're going up a hill somewhere. Also, handling is rather interesting. Thing is, I wanted to race the little BMW against the racing trucks. After all, a while ago we did a David versus Goliath challenge with a Fiat 595 and some Hummers. It was good fun, quite terrifying for me in the Fiat, but it was rather good fun. Thing is, the Isetta was going to need some work because it was nowhere near the pace of the racing truck as it kind of toodles its way around Brands Hatch. And that meant an engine swap. Now, one of the options was a rotary, so naturally that's the one that I had to go for. I also made it four-wheel drive. Not quite sure how that would all work with the sort of two rear wheels stuck together. It would be an interesting driveline going on in this. Either way, it's a four-wheel drive. It's powered by a rotary engine that is barely controllable. You will notice it's still on white walls. I had to keep the standard tyres. I tried putting it on race tyres and so on. They give the car so much grip that all it wants to do is go up onto its side. It's pretty bad like this. With racing tyres, it's undrivable. It just wants to flip itself over constantly. As it is, it's okay. You can see how much I am struggling though, just doing this filming lap around Brands. It just constantly wants to lift up. I did some tuning work with the suspension. It's actually got quite a lot of positive camber, all trying to stop the vehicle from going up onto its side and to at least have it controllable when it does go up onto its side. Of course, with now 230 horsepower, it does accelerate like crazy thanks to that four-wheel drive. It is a little heavier, 1,200 pounds, but still, that is not a huge amount of weight. So I was going to see how it would fare against a field of racing trucks. Of course, that four-wheel drive launch and being incredibly light compared to the competition would fly the Isetta off towards turn one here at Yas Marina. I'd overtaken half the field before we got to this first corner. The problem was, it then gets very, very terrifying. Not only can I not really turn corners very well, you've got a whole bunch of trucks trying to find a way past you. As we're on sort of three wheels, the front just wiggling around in the air. We've got a truck on the outside, truck behind us. Every which way, everywhere you look, there are trucks trying to find ways past you. And then I've got the great acceleration down towards the chicane, and then it all gets a little bit scary once more. All you can see in the rearview mirror is just a Mercedes badge of the truck behind you. Somehow I've managed to keep myself ahead of the blue vehicle. The trucks are trying to fit far too many vehicles into a little corner. There was some liberal use of track limits, I'll be honest, with the racing trucks at times around here. Once we're out of the hairpin though, of course, I can put the power down, and the crazy acceleration of the BMW would fire it back up the field, getting past four trucks before we get down towards the big braking zone. The brakes were not fantastic on the BMW. I will be honest, I did struggle a little bit to get it stopped, and unfortunately I'd feel the wrath of a truck as I just get my vehicle stuck up on three wheels. I can't turn, and well, we know what's going to come off worse between the bubble car and a racing truck. I do get put off the track, however, once we get it going again, I can fire myself off down the next straight and retake pretty much all of the positions that I had lost. Unfortunately, then we come to the difficult section, because these long straights are great news for the bubble car. The braking zone's not quite so much good news. Again, I was struggling getting it slowed down, and then we come to these tighter, slower corners. This is not good news for the bubble car that really doesn't want to keep its wheels on the ground. The pink truck's having a look. Can't quite do anything though. I will just out-accelerate him. Now, away from the bubble car shenanigans, the actual truck's running at the front. These are not bad racing vehicles. I I honestly didn't expect them to quite be as drivable as they were. And while, yes, they are very large, and visibility is awful. Visibility inside these trucks, it's very easy to have vehicles stuck in your blind spot, simply not know where they are and end up sort of bumping vehicles around. It is, very, very tough to see. But when you get things right, the racing can be, well, just as good as it would be with any other sort of vehicles, as there is to be a change for the leaders. A great overtake around that second to last corner, around the outside there. That is a fantastic piece of driving to get the trucks past. The camo truck is under threat for that second place as well. The black vehicle having a look, having a think about trying to go around the outside of the final turn there. Couldn't quite get done, but the camo truck actually gets a really good run down towards the first turn. Is a little bit too far back. But yeah, there are some really impressive overtakes going on between some of the trucks, despite them not being the sort of vehicles you would normally see racing. I was still in the middle of being terrified of, well, just about everything. A lot of the lines I were taking were kind of more dictated by what the car was doing. I was trying my best. I didn't really want to bounce it across curbs. I got very unhappy if you did. But if you went to kind of turn into a corner and the vehicle was on three wheels and having issues, you had to do whatever the car was going to do, because I had very little in the way of control. I couldn't really stop it. I had to go. This is the only vehicle I think I've ever had to go to normal steering. I normally run simulation steering. I had to go for normal steering just to simply try and keep control of this a little bit better. I couldn't be dealing with the twitchiness as well as everything else that could go on with this vehicle as well. It was having to make the most, basically, of these straights. If I could make the most of those sections, I could get far enough ahead by the time I got to the slower parts on the course to sort of stay in battles with trucks. Too wide through that double apex, very high speed double apex turn. Neither of them can pull the trucks up in the braking zone. The vehicle behind is going to try and make the most of it. That is a tough place going too wide in normal-sized cars. It's a very, very quick section of the track, and we were fitting two trucks through that section. Admittedly, not quite getting them stopped, but people were still learning the vehicles at this time. So, yeah, the actual wheel-to-wheel racing with these was surprisingly good fun. Although one thing that you could find, if you did get stuck in battles, because they're quite difficult to overtake, quite large, you could lose quite a lot of time, much as we saw when we raced the limos, because trying to get a clean pass done on these vehicles is a little bit tougher. Once you start in battles, you can lose heaps and heaps of time. It did make the racing interesting, though, because it often brought bigger groups of vehicles together to fight for whatever position. As we're running into this chicane, trying to fit two vehicles wide, the black truck, I'm not sure if he got bumped or whether he just ran out wide on his own. Either way, they were giving each other enough space, at least, to get it around the course. As I said, on the most part, people were doing their very best to stay in track limits, but when fighting wheel-to-wheel with semi-trucks, there was the odd escape of the circuit, which I think, well, people are still learning the vehicles. I think we'll let them off that one as we now come down this long back straight. Got to get the braking point right. The grey truck here on the outside. That is a tough place to try and get an overtake done. Nevertheless, he goes for it. If you can keep it around the outside of the first part, you will be on the inside for the next part. He just gets bumped across the curb there. If you do take a tighter line there, you could often end up being, well, rather screwed when it comes to trying to accelerate down this next straight. The black truck's got a much better run as they come towards the next corner. The vehicle behind them has gained massively. You see what I mean? When they're starting bumping doors and so on, you lose time very, very quickly. We're going to try to go around the outside of the next section. They do fit too wide through here. At the end, the black truck has to have a little lift, while the white vehicle can't make the turn, was carrying too much speed trying to go around the outside. I think it ended up in the wall, but would cut back to the inside through the next corner. For me, I was stuck down further back in the field here. I had relatively good pace from time to time. The difficulty with it all was that almost all of my time was made up down these straights. I had to make sure that I could get clear of all of the trucks down here, and then, as we come in under braking, make sure I don't get mullered by something, and try and get out of these corners as well as possible to make the most of the strengths in the bubble car, because I knew when we came to the corners I would be in trouble. It's like a great overtake from the truck going around the outside of my vehicle there down at the hairpin. I would immediately retake the position. They know that I'm going to go flying past them. but they've got a big opportunity when it comes to the twisty section up ahead. I was catching the group further up, and it certainly didn't help me having sort of so many trucks around. It was a lot more difficult to deal with the bubble car when you're coming through this section, knowing that trucks are going to be trying to find a way past and whatnot. I get stuck on the outside. I can't quite turn in where I want to. The truck actually overruns the corner ever so slightly, and unfortunately for me, as I was trying to, I think I fought my way across a curb, I just bounced off the back of a truck. Not very much that the truck can do about that one. They're going too wide up ahead of me, so this one, yeah, dropped me all the way to the back of the field here. But yeah, the bubble car was terrifying, and it was very difficult to really live with the truck, but it had been quite a lot of fun racing with those vehicles. So it was kind of a case of let's try and find a track where the bubble car might be a little bit more suited. So we fly through the middle. I love that shot of just flying through the middle of the trucks while you're driving a rotary powered bubble car, because just reasons of craziness, pretty much. Yeah, I was kind of picking tracks that might suit the Isetta, so ones with relatively large amounts of straights, you know, lots of acceleration zones. That would be playing to the BMW's strong points. Of course, the trucks would still make up heaps of time through the corners, simply because, as you can see, my vehicle is wiggling around one of its front wheels in the air 90% of the time. As we come down this next straight, I'm catching massively. There is just a sea of trucks up ahead of me. Absolutely nowhere I can go, so I go on the brakes a little bit early. The truck behind is a little bit late. Amazingly, that is a 12,000-pound truck, giving the BMW a nudge through that corner. Somehow I really thought I was just going to be off. I thought I was going to ping off into the gravel trap, but it does stay on course, as the vehicles behind, one of the trucks was having to go a few dabs on the brake to try and not end up in the back of the BMW, so I struggled to get around the final turn, but then we're unleashed down the start-finish straights towards the first corner. I can't outbrake these vehicles. I know I'm not going to carry the speed through the turn. It's all about trying to be neat and tidy, but also trying to keep control. As you see, I end up out very, very wide around turn one, because, yeah, you can see from the onboard shot, the control is just not there. There's heaps and heaps of time through this corner. The blue vehicle is getting up alongside, but it's never going to be able to pass. As soon as we're under power once more, I'm going chasing after the vehicles up ahead. They're fighting each other. Now they're 3 trucks wide ahead of me, and I have nowhere to... I didn't really want to risk going to the inside there. That's just asking for a tremendous amount of trouble, having a dive up the inside of the trucks down there. All it would take is them not to see me. And, you know, people were having issues of losing other trucks in blind zones, you know, with mirrors and so on. It's very tough to see a bubble car when they're driving these things. So, yeah, I was trying to be aware of the difficulties that they were having in simple visibility. I get around the outside of one vehicle, though, as we head around the final corner. It's too wide up ahead. I half think about going in the middle of them and then very quickly realise that is a dumb idea and that it won't work. So I'm happy to drop back into line again, having to be a little cautious around turn one, but you're back on the power. It will out-accelerate the racing truck down towards the next corner. Very nearly got myself up alongside the vehicle ahead, and then I kind of get it there initially, but I just can't carry that quarter speed. The age-old problem I've been having with the Isetta, I can't carry the quarter speed, but once more, we're on the acceleration. There's a great little battle going on here between the two most unlikely of vehicles and the most unruly of BMWs. I was having a great race. I actually made up a position in all of that, and once again having to try and fend them off through the slower sections. And out of the Isetta silliness, there was some pretty damn good racing going on elsewhere. This group of vehicles were having a fantastic little battle. A few, as you saw, a few escapings of the track did occur here as a vehicle comes back on the circuit at a slightly poor angle. It's 3 wide coming down around the final turn there. Sorry, the curbs are vicious, and this is one of the other problems with this circuit. We saw it in a recent versus the community. While you would expect a big truck to be nice and planted, the vehicle that we saw spin coming towards the final corner, I think he got a wheel on the curb as he tried to put the power down. Most of the time, like 90% of these time, the trucks will be okay with it, but there's just that 10% where you go to get on the power, you have the wheel on the curb, it'll just spin you around, and that will flick you back onto the circuit in front of an onrushing field. Now, In the racing trucks, if there's a little bit of bumping, they can get away with it. We see here, there's a little bit of bumping. Okay, this vehicle here has ended up losing out on the position, but they could get away with it. Much like we saw with the Gurkha racing. You know, if there was some trading of paint, it didn't really matter. The vehicles are so large and a huge amount of grip that they were fine to get away with it. I was, having some fun times, still trying to keep control of the BMW. Once more, on a good lap, I could keep up. I could match the lap times of the fast trucks, but that was for only, one lap where everything would go well. The next couple of laps, I'd end up fighting the damn thing and losing a huge amount of time. I don't think I've ever driven a vehicle quite like this one. It was also quite an odd one. When it did sort of go up to three wheels, it had that front wheel wiggling around in the air. It was actually surprisingly stable with it. I was finding that if I just booted it, it would sort itself out, even though normally if any of the other vehicles, like the SUVs and so on, that might do that, normally if you then try and go at full throttle with it wiggling around up in the air, you're going to have all manner of issues. In fact, with this, it made things easier. So it took me a little while to adjust to that, but you could kind of get the hang a little bit at least of driving this vehicle. Unfortunately for me, just as I was about to re-get into the fight, it was my turn to get in trouble across the curbs. Not so surprising to see the Isetta have problems there, because this is a tiny lightweight car with far too much power and nowhere near enough grip and all of the wrong centre of mass. Bounce across those vicious curbs that were spinning out the race cars from versus the community, you're going to end up seeing that pointing the wrong way. The trucks, we were a little surprised to see them having issues on the curbs, but, it happens once more. As I said, with Yas Marina, when the trucks were racing one another, there were some really rather impressive overtakes. This time, going for a cutback out of that final corner. It's a great move. As quite difficult to commentate with identical trucks. People didn't quite have time to paint their vehicles for this one. But it's a great cutback to the inside out of that final turn as we head up towards this first corner. Again, we're fitting two trucks wide around turn one. It's difficult going too wide through these high-speed corners here at Silverstone at the best of times, let alone when you've got a racing semi-truck. There's a little bit of a bump as we come through Maggots and Beckett's, but once more, the vehicles can shrug off that sort of contact, and still we're going for cutbacks. This time the other vehicle is going for the cutback, although he's got himself alongside as we come down the longest straight here, but that will then put you on the outside for this next turn. If you're brave and can hold it around the outside, if you can go the long way there, you will get a benefit for the next turn. He can't quite do it in the end. It was a gallant effort, but couldn't quite make the move. So, it took a lap in all of that for the vehicle that the camera was following there to get an overtake done, and you can see how fields can bunch up very quickly. As soon as these trucks start battling, they do lose some time. At the front, it was perhaps a little calmer. Out here, escaping the shenanigans, there was a little bit more gaps in the field this time out. But the trucks were as entertaining fun racing as you would expect, and the bubble car was quite terrifying, really. I hadn't fared, the track suited the bubble car better. This one, as I said, I was keeping pace with, I wasn't that far down lap time wise to the front running trucks, but it was just the difficulty in keeping the bubble car under control and not making the mistakes. You can see the damn thing it's trying to do around the final turn there. You've got to try and keep it off the curbs, it's wibbling from side to side. It's not ideal. It was an experience, definitely, and the Silverstone had suited it a little better. For our final race, we would head to the Hockenheim circuit and spot the little orange BMW making up all of the positions off the start line. I love the replay cameras watching. It's just sort of, where is the BMW? Somewhere in all of that, there it is. There is a tiny, terrified Isetta trying to make up positions. Of course, off the line again, I'm making those good starts, and we've got to another acceleration zone here that I can make some ground up in, and I'm through the middle. I do actually lean slightly on one of the trucks. I can get away with that. If I'm leaning on the truck, that's okay. If a truck tries to lean on me, that's when we have all manner of issues. There's a very sideways truck behind me as someone's out wide across the curb, and amazingly, I was finding myself going towards the front of the field for the first time in this session. although they were 3 wide up ahead of me. Again, I figure this is not a good idea. We're not going to get involved with trucks going 3 wide. It's going to end badly for the poor BMW. I'm happy to just sit behind them. They get themselves into trouble. I use all of the acceleration to weave my way and would out-drag the black truck to find myself in second place, the highest place the BMW had been at any point during all of this, although I had now, unfortunately, used all of the lovely, lovely straights. We were coming towards the more technical circuit, and technical part of the circuit, and I immediately get myself into trouble because I can't quite get the BMW slowed down. Of course, through these turns, if I take the turns slower, I can keep it on all 4 wheels, but I have still got to keep up some quarter speed after all. We're in a race, and trying to judge the going slow to keep the car under control and going, well, quick enough to keep pace with the vehicles you're racing was, part of the real challenge here. I'm trying to fend off. Trucks are going too wide behind me while I'm trying to fend them off. The white vehicles made up a position, but I've got the acceleration down towards these final couple of corners, although I haven't really quite got the presence with the... I'm loving some of these shots of just the tiny BMW being surrounded by trucks but still getting passes done around the final corner. I had a truck trying to get to the inside. He kind of briefly gets alongside, but always going to vanish down towards turn 1. And once more, while I'm struggling to get it turned and really don't want to be going near the curb, if I went across the curbs, I was more than happy to wait until that giant blue curb end to bring the car back across. We saw what happened at Silverstone. I wasn't risking it here. Again, the curbs can be very nasty at this circuit. It's a terrifying sight once more to have directly behind you, but this is the BMW strong part of the lap. We can get out of these corners, and this is a decent sized straight for me to race along as the vehicles up ahead are going side by side. I'm catching quickly to the back of the camo truck. Unfortunately, once again, it's all a little crowded up here, and this is hurting the BMW. While, yes, I can easily, avoid them, I'm not necessarily going to get myself into trouble here. I can't make the most of my acceleration when there's this many trucks around me. Somehow I managed to thread the needle through all of this, weave my way through an assortment of trucks, and once more find myself up into a 3rd place this time. I'd lost 1 spot from the previous lap here, but it was an interesting kind of ebb and flow to this race for me. Anyway, of course, for the trucks, they're all exactly equal, so there's no strong sections for them as such. I really had to make up as much time as I could in the straight bits, and if there were groups of trucks around me at the time, that was very, very costly for the BMW to come through this fast corner. The front is trying to pick up. I mean, I'd want to try and defend, but it's so very difficult to defend against these sort of vehicles. Now, further back, this was the group that I was taking part in the previous races, because, I'd actually managed to make a really, really good start here at Hockenheim if you got marred down in traffic. I mean, the same went for the trucks. Lap time-wise, everyone was actually very, very even in these vehicles. There really wasn't a huge split in lap times. But if you got marred down in traffic, it was so difficult to make progress. We've talked about this in single-make races before, but it's exacerbated by this kind of vehicle. This is a great overtake, by the way, from the white and purple truck there to get the move done into that section, and can now get a very clean run onto the back straight as well to chase down the vehicles up ahead. But it's so tough. Normally you have to spend quite a long time to actually get passes done. You get marred down in these battles and you lose a heap of ground, which made it difficult to make progress through the field. The white and purple truck, though, does get to the inside of the hairpin. Another very clean pass with the truck. The green vehicle is doing some grass cutting out there, having missed the braking into the hairpin. But I was a little bit concerned about, certainly on the opening laps with this many huge giant vehicles flying into the hairpin. There was some bumping, but nothing majorly went wrong up there, which is always good. Now the green truck is finding himself under quite heavy pressure further back. But you get the idea that pretty much throughout the field the trucks would find somewhere and get stuck down in battles. You could make some progress, but it was really rather tough going. Up at the front, just starting to break away a little bit from the bubble car. These two were contending for the lead as they run around the first corner. It's a better run out of turn 1 for the number 22 as we head towards this second corner. Hockenheim Of all the circuits probably that we went to, Hockenheim one of the easier to overtake. Lots of good overtaking spots around the Hockenheim circuit. It's a good move through the second corner there to take the lead, while the vehicle behind would have a big issue. These curbs, if they just catch a truck at the wrong point, you know, you'll see a lot of these vehicles are running across it absolutely fine with no problems whatsoever, but if it just catches it at the wrong point, and because there is so much mass and so much energy, etc., going on with these, once they do start to go, that's when you're going to have lots and lots of problems with them. So yeah, kind of had to watch out for that one. With the white truck having spun down the order, that promoted me back up into a podium spot. Yes, the bubble car was holding on to third. I didn't quite have the pace of the leader. He was just that bit too much quicker than I was. Second place, though, had a spin on a curb as well, and now the bubble car would fight for the podium spots as we headed towards the final lap. Around this last corner, I would get past, but immediately find a way to re-overtake with that mighty acceleration. And I was doing just enough to keep the vehicles behind me so that they could only really attack me at that final corner. I was getting far enough ahead through this opening part of the lap, which was very good news for the bubble car as we head down towards the second corner. I would manage to out-drag second place and then outbrake myself completely. It was worth a go, but yeah, trying to outbrake these trucks was really difficult. They stopped better than my blooming tiny lightweight car. It was awful. Really, it was terrible trying to get it slowed down. Terrible trying to go for overtakes. As we now come down to the long straight. Yes, it was an awful turn too, but all of that speed came in very handy. However, that outbraking moment had cost me a little bit of time. It meant I wasn't quite going to be as far ahead as I would like. Again, into the hairpin. I was giving the trucks the inside space. I could see they were fighting. Really didn't want to try and cut across them. It's never going to end well for my vehicle. You can see the leader in the distance as well, managing to pull away up there. I didn't quite have an answer for him. His vehicle was just that bit too, or it's just too quick driving for me to be able to keep up. Now the trucks behind me were actually helping me out because they were now battling one another and not just focusing on me. That helped the bubble car just maintain that gap a little bit more. And you see, they still haven't caught up to me as we come through this fast turn, although this is where they will come steaming towards the bubble car. That is one of the turns that I really can't take anywhere near as much speed as the racing trucks can because of my car's want to go up onto its side. Out of the hairpin, still they're not able to draw alongside, and I can use all of my acceleration towards the final couple of turns. It's a big three-wheeled moment for me as I turn in. I get a huge slide fighting for control. I'm out on the curb. The trucks are going to the inside. I was happy to give them space, but as they come together, I am the ultimate loser in all of that, unfortunately, and more on diving up the inside would cost my bubble car a podium. In the end, the purple truck would get the second place, rounding everyone up around the outside. It's a fantastic opportunistic move from the purple truck there to claim second place. Yeah, unfortunately, when the trucks are squabbling against each other, it's always going to end poorly for the bubble car there. Sad that it ended up in the tyre bundle, but there we go. It proved itself. It was keeping up. It was keeping up with the racing trucks at Hockenheim and fighting with them. It's certainly a terrifying experience driving the bubble car on its own, just simply because they are so unwieldy and so uncontrollable. But driving one like this amongst racing trucks is really something, yeah, something quite spectacular and an awful lot of fun. I highly recommend you give it a go. The bubble car won't be easy to drive, but yeah, if you can get it right, it is a terrifyingly exciting experience. However, that is going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.